Our GMA cover story, the mom who refused to vaccinate her 9-year-old son, well, she is now getting time behind bars. And ABC's Ariel Reshef is here with more on that courtroom battle sparking a national debate. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning, Amy. Brado said that she was right here on GMA. She was ready to face jail time. This morning, she's waking up an inmate. In court, she doubled down on her controversial decision not to vaccinate her son. The judge responding with some pointed words and a 7-day sentence. This mom of two hauled off in handcuffs. This morning, she's in a Detroit jail for deliberately defying a court order to vaccinate her son.
I'm a passionate mother who cares deeply about my children.
Rebecca Brado making her case in court.
If my child is going to be forced to be vaccinated, I couldn't bring myself to do it. It goes against my beliefs, Your Honor.
But her ex-husband didn't agree. Michigan law requires both parents to consent in order to opt out of vaccinations for kids.
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to stop you because the truth matters to me. I understand you love your children, but what I don't think you understand is that your son has two parents and dad gets a say.
The judge not holding back.
And you've repeatedly stated over the past several days publicly that you will not follow this court order.
Just last week, Brado fiercely defended her decision on GMA.
It wasn't until they started grouping vaccines that I chose to no longer vaccinate. I would rather go to jail for standing up for what I believe in than vaccinating my child.
Doctors say grouping vaccines is a common medical practice and carries less risk than avoiding them entirely.
So a lot of times one vaccine can be combined with another vaccine if it seems like the combination is actually more effective than giving them individually.
The American Academy of Pediatrics emphasizes vaccines are safe, vaccines are effective, vaccines save lives.
So vaccines were made to protect your child against illnesses. The recommended schedule that is the vaccine manufacturer recommends, the CDC recommends, is designed in a way to actually get optimal results.
A Perth couple whose daughter was left severely brain damaged after receiving last year's flu vaccine has spoken publicly for the first time of the medical blunder that has shattered their lives. After Saba Button's shocking reaction to the flu vac, the program was axed, but not before dozens of other infants were given the shot.
Hello. Hi.
This time last year, Saba Button had just taken her first 3 steps, spoken her first 3 words. She was a beautiful, thriving 11-month-old.
She loves dancing.
Then one Monday afternoon in April, on the recommendation of the health department, this completely healthy toddler had the flu jab.
The happiness and the easygoingness of our family has been destroyed. Saba had her vaccination at around 12:30 that day, went home and seemed to be fine throughout the afternoon. By 8 o'clock that night, she was moaning softly. We could only just hear it on the monitor in her bed. She had a temperature of 40.2 degrees. She was totally despondent and listless.
Saba was in the fight of her little life.
But on the second day, and it's also important to say that we were told all her organs shut down and we were told to come and say goodbye to our little girl.
Get your family in because she might not make it. And it was pretty heavy.
It's an acquired brain injury from prolonged seizures, which is global injury all over her brain. She no longer is able to walk. She's no longer able to say the words mama, dada and nana that she had prior to this happening. She can no longer eat by mouth. In 11 months, we have been in and out of hospital 11 times.
Hello, chicken. Hi, it's Dada.
Such a beautiful baby, but a very, very different baby.
What makes this so desperately sad is it could have been prevented. The health department knew there had been some terrible reactions to the flu vac, but didn't issue a warning.
No, not at all. And since doing further research, we found out that at PMH 111 children presented in ED, and even that alone, without the collation of anything else around the state, should have been enough for alarm bells to be set off.
So they knew, but they didn't tell anybody.
Those inside the medical profession knew that these adverse reactions were occurring, and very sadly, nothing was said to the public to help us look after our children.
Nobody, even as they were administering it, said, do you know, there might have been 90-odd adverse reactions the last couple of days.
Nothing was said.
Even while Saba was desperately fighting for life in ICU, still more parents were getting their children vaccinated, innocently playing a potentially deadly game of Russian roulette. It was 2 more days before the flu vac program was stopped. This was a new type of flu vac, one which mixed in the swine flu. We've been assured that the particular brand of vaccine that so seriously injured Saba will not be used again this year.
The reason, one of the reasons we're talking to you today is that we want to make sure this doesn't happen to someone else's kids.
Yes.
Because it just shouldn't happen.
Wasn't meant to be like this though, was it?
No.
No.
No. We had a beautiful life.
Well, just days ago, over 100 protesters gathered outside of the CDC right here in Atlanta, demanding transparency when it comes to vaccines. So are these people conspiracy theorists, or did they have a good reason to be here? I promise, this is a reality check you won't see anywhere else.
There's too much corruption, too much conflict of interest, and our children are paying the price.
Well, it is an incredibly controversial subject, to say the least. But those protesters outside the CDC here in Atlanta say that the information being provided to the public about vaccines is not completely honest. And all of it hinges on one man. This guy right here, a scientist you've probably never heard of. That scientist's name is Dr. William Thompson. And it was on August 27th of 2014 that Dr. Thompson made an admission that got very little media coverage, but it was a major statement. That statement read in part, quote, "I regret that my co-authors and I omitted statistically significant information in our 2004 article published in the journal Pediatrics. The omitted data suggested that African American males who received the MMR vaccine before age 36 months were at increased risk for autism. Decisions were made regarding the findings of the report as the data was collected, and I believe that the final study protocol was not followed." So I'll tell you the significance of that statement in just a minute, but let's be clear here. Dr. Thompson did not come forward on his own. He released that statement I read to you only after he was secretly recorded by Dr. Brian Hooker. Now, once that happened, Thompson hired a whistleblower attorney, then turned over documents to Congress. Dr. Thompson still works, by the way, for the CDC, and a few weeks ago, I requested a sit-down interview with him. Dr. Thompson refused that request. Even though he wouldn't sit down with me, Thompson has claimed that he's handed over documents about this case to Congressman Bill Posey's office. Now, I spoke with the Congressman's office about that, and the spokesman confirms to me that thousands of documents were handed over, but sources within that office tell me as many as 100,000 documents were actually handed over. Congressman Posey brought this information to the floor of Congress, and what he read there was nothing short of stunning. That authors of the study not only hid the actual findings, but attempted to destroy evidence. Quoting from Dr. Thompson, the authors of the study decided not to disclose to the public that African American boys under 36 months were more susceptible to developing autism or autism-like symptoms from the MMR vaccine.
The remaining 4 co-authors all met and brought a big garbage can into the meeting room and reviewed and went through all the hard copy documents that we had thought we should discard and put them in a huge garbage can. However, because I assumed it was illegal and would violate both FOIA and DOJ requests, I kept hard copies of all documents in my office, and I retained all associated computer files. I believe we intentionally withheld controversial findings from the final draft of the pediatrics paper.
So just in case you missed it there, Dr. Thompson, that statement, by the way, read into the congressional record, a CDC scientist and an author of the study in the journal Pediatrics that insisted there is no link between vaccines and autism, admits that he and other authors of that study left out information that was deemed controversial. Information that in some African American male children who are given the MMR vaccine, the measles vaccine, before 36 months, did have an increased risk of autism and signs of autism. And that not only did the CDC hide that information, but that the authors of the study threw that evidence into a trash can and destroyed it. So what you need to know here is that there is so much hysteria over this subject. You know, why is it that you have to be all for vaccines given in all quantities at all times to all people, or you're anti-vaccination? You know, vaccines probably have saved more lives on this planet than any other single medical advancement. You might know that. But what you might not know is that all vaccines in all quantities for all people are not safe. Every year, hundreds of children are injured by vaccines here in the United States. Since 1986, the United States government, they have paid out $3 billion to the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. But raise even one question, just one, about why that is, and you get shouted down. That's Reality Check.